This is for you. You specifically that said, I'm sick of baseball videos. So you out there.
Football!
It's a football video.
There you go.
Top 10 looking ahead for the 2015 season. This has changed quite a bit over the last 48 hours for us because it has been nuts since free agency with the trades and signings, everything that's going on. So as of mid-March, this is our projected top 15, top 10 for 2015.
FanDuel, if you want to get into those leagues, though, FST 2015, use that promo code. You get the same sign-up bonus you get everywhere else.
If you're not in a real baseball league and just want to do some daily, do that.
There you go. Matt Forte is our number one, and this changed from just a few weeks ago, like we talked about, because people changing teams, possible suspensions. But Forte just keeps doing it, even if you're not in a PPR league. I mean, obviously his values in his rushes, but mainly in his receptions. I mean, the guy catches the ball a ton. But even in a non-PPR league, he gets enough receiving yards to make it worth your while as well. I mean, he's just been consistent. His situation shouldn't be changing all that much. They're going to be relying on him early and often in the game. So, safe overall. First overall pick, Matt Forte.
And he gets goal lines. That was his knock coming into last year. And he got the goal lines, and he scored the touchdowns. So that's good. So you should get those again. Number 2, another guy that gets the goal lines, and that's Jamaal Charles. This guy has scored a ton of touchdowns in the last 2 seasons combined. He is as safe as anybody if he stays healthy to score double-digit touchdowns. Plus, you're going to have that breakaway speed, so you're going to have long runs. He can catch the ball. All-around great player. Very safe, number 2, Jamaal Charles.
When you look at number 3, I think the safest pick is Eddie Lacy. Now with Lacy, you're not going to get a guy that's going to single-handedly win your week. He's not going to have many 200-yard rushing games, but he's very consistent in all aspects in terms of the amount of times he touches the ball. You know he's going to get the goal lines. You know he's on a great offense. He's just a solid overall, safe first-round pick, and he's still fairly healthy and fresh, so you got to like all those things.
And if you want a little bit of upside at number 3, maybe you'll consider DeMarco Murray. Now, the reason it gets bumped down, sure, he was healthy last year, but he had a ton of carries, and the knock on him in the past was his injury history, so it could be a little bit of buyer beware with that, but you gotta love the fact he's going to that Eagles high-powered offense. Ryan Matthews is there, Sproles is there, so like I said, he's not going to touch the ball nearly as much as he did, but in that offense, being the featured back, you still gotta love DeMarco Murray as a top draft pick next year, or this year. This fall. Oh, it's close. I can't believe it.
Let's get away from those running backs for a minute and talk about Andrew Luck. Really took a big step forward in his progression in terms of a fantasy quarterback. He was amazing last year. And here's the thing, too. Frank Gore, gotta like that addition.
Like that.
And I like Andre Johnson.
Love it.
I think it is a very good fit. Reggie Wayne was not himself last year. He really didn't help Luck that much. I think Johnson still has enough in the tank.
I agree.
I think it's a huge. Well, I mean, the guy's amazing, and with him and Ty, I mean, I think the Colts, if all those guys can stay healthy, very exciting offense.
Another exciting offense. Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. I mean, what more do you want from this guy? Every year he's consistent. I don't think he threw a pick at home last year or something crazy like that.
Touchdown to interception ratio is just absurd.
It's great. And he does get you some with the legs, so he can run, he can scramble to some degree when a play breaks down, get you some yards there, he'll rush a couple in. I mean, I think Luck's ranked higher because his ceiling is probably a little bit higher because they could be playing, a lot of their defense isn't as good, so they're going to be in a lot of high-scoring games. But Rodgers is definitely as safe as you come at quarterback, and we've always said we like Luck. We heard people, wait on a quarterback. Well, if you drafted RG3 last year as a wait on a quarterback kind of guy, let me know how your season went. Or Jake Cutler even. Now they didn't start the whole second half.
All right, let's move to a receiver, Antonio Brown. What a year. I mean,
beast.
This guy is absolutely amazing. Get the ball in his hands, and he just creates. There's always a debate, try to get your running backs early, do all this, do that, but, it's not really that way anymore, I really don't feel. I mean, running backs just, they're so inconsistent once you get out of the first round a lot of times, and just, I think if you get a top-tier receiver, it can help you just as much as a top running back. With so many committees where you can get, a decent running back later that will at least have some value. I really have no problem going with a receiver in the first round. And Antonio Brown last year was just amazing.
PPR leagues, even more of a bump. I mean, just look at his targets, his catches. And if you're hating on this, check his game log first, and then come back and hate. All right, next on our list, we got Marshawn Lynch. He re-upped with Seattle. He didn't retire. Big shocker. I don't know why we go through this every offseason. Like, he's turned into Brett Favre. It's kind of weird. But Marshawn Lynch, I actually love the addition of Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham got traded. I'm saying I love the addition of Jimmy Graham to the Saints for Lynch. That actually is going to help running lanes even more for this guy. And he's just as solid as it comes. And nobody runs harder than Marshawn Lynch in the league. It's time to give this guy the respect, getting him in the first round.
So Skittles. Next, we had this guy penciled in at number 1, but with all of the possible suspension stuff going on, it sounds like it's going to be a 2-game suspension. We'll see what happens. But Le'Veon Bell, I mean, he really took his game to the next level last year. I mean, he kind of slipped a little bit because of all the marijuana stuff going on before last year's draft. People just questioning maybe some character.
Was he going to get the goal line
stuff? I mean, definitely blunt. I mean, but Bell he put all that stuff to bed. Now we'll have the suspension stuff, but here's the thing. You're delayed at the end of the first round. You can draft the potential number 1 guy, but you just got to wait him out 2 games. Not too bad. That was amazing.
And in number 10, we've had some debates over this. We're like, do we want McCoy, but he's with the Bills, and we're trying to give him the ball up, but it's the Bills, so what are we going to do? Do you put Dez here? Do you put a receiver? Scary. You know what you put here? You put Odell Beckham Jr. That's who you put here.
Oh, it's scary.
I know it's scary, and it's very un-FST. That's what I was saying to Dustin before. We are not standard. We do not kind of go with, this is what they did last year. He's young, so he's going to do even better this year. But if you look at his game, if you look at his stats, nobody averaged more yards per game receiving than Odell Beckham Jr. And he only did it in, I believe, 12 games. He had touchdowns. He was almost the number 1 fantasy wide receiver in last games. And flat out, as Dustin says, what can he do better than anyone else?
He is better than catching a football than anyone else in the world. And
that's what you got to do with a wide receiver.
At some point, you have to put talent above everything else. I know that there's some question marks. His sophomore slump, Eli Manning, blah, blah, blah. The guy caught the ball with 3 fingers behind his head, falling into the end zone. First round pick.
Odell Beckham can win leagues next year. I mean, he's that kind of elite talent, and he is younger. If you're looking at Calvin's getting older. He's getting older, his knees, injury. I'm not too scared with the injury with this guy.
Namco right here, Dustin right here. Post comments, I'm sure you're going to. Get in the forums if you want
Let
to
us
start
know
talking
what
some
you
football
think.
already.
Frank Gore to the Colts, should he be number 1? That was actually perfect.